Hey, it's Dr. Gold. This is a brief overview of the Lean Business Model Feasibility Study project. To access this, you go to our Blackboard homepage here, which again looks like this, and you go to the Lean Feasibility Plan over here, the project category here, and you open that up. In here will be a brief overview of what is outlined. This project is expected to be a semester-long project that you should be working on consistently every single week. There's many sections, some of which you can start to work on right away, and some you'll have to wait until you learn about what the concepts are for those particular sections. But for this week, right at the beginning of the semester, you should download and save the template document that I've provided you with here, which we'll look at in a moment. Save it to your computer, put your name on the cover page, the name of your business, and begin to review the different questions and topics that are inside of that document. Now, the document itself, what it looks like, and I'll just scroll to the top of it, is this. And inside the document, as I said, the first page you'll change your name from my name and, put your business name down. This is the table of contents, and these are the sections here that will be covered. There's an introduction section, product service description, the team management capabilities, and so forth. Please note that these page numbers are just examples. So, for example, on the introduction page, I specify that you just need to make that one page or less, so that will certainly be page 3. But for these other sections, let's say the product service description section, if you end up writing 2 pages, which is fine, and I would encourage you to do that, then that might be page 4 and 5 for product service description, and team management would then become page 6. So you'll have to change these page numbers to align with whatever the pages are for your project. One of the sections here, customer discovery, is going to be a rather lengthy section. It's probably going to go from whatever the page number is that you're starting at for maybe like 13, 14 pages or so, because each week on Blackboard, you're going to be filing a customer discovery report beginning in week 3, and those reports need to be implemented in the feasibility plan itself. You're then going to summarize in that section in the feasibility plan what exactly you learned and discovered through your customer discovery interactions, and you'll see more about that in Module 3, but also when we get to that section here in this video. So let's go through each section briefly and see what's expected of you. As I said, the introduction here should cover the major points of your feasibility study, and as I mentioned earlier, it should be 1 page or less. If you feel like writing more than 1 page on this section, you can, but you don't need to. As you scroll down to the product service description area, this section here is basically saying what it says, what is the customer problem that you're solving, and what is your solution for that problem. There's a concept in here called pain point, which you see here, which is a very important concept for you to learn about, and you'll learn more about it in one of the modules. There's a specific assignment that you'll work on. But a pain point basically is measuring whether or not a customer's feeling about the problem that you're solving is intense enough or severe enough where they're willing to actually pay for a solution for that problem. Most people have problems, and most people would prefer not having those problems or having a solution to those problems. But the question is, are people willing to pay for the solution? And that depends on how severe and annoying and painful the problem is for that particular person. So some people might say, well, yeah, I'd love a solution for this problem. And then when they find out how much the solution costs, they're like, well, I'll just deal with it. And that's more of like an annoyance. So you've got to be able to gauge the level of pain or the pain point that your target customer is experiencing relative to this issue, and whether or not it's painful enough for them to pay for some sort of solution. So that's kind of what this section's about. The next section is the team management capability section. Now, if you have a team, that's great. You should write about who the people are and what they bring to the table or what value they add to the company. If you're working alone, and which many of you might be right now, simply think to yourself, what are my strengths and weaknesses, and what type of people would I need to join my team to make it better? For example, maybe you're really good at finance but not a good people person, so you might need to hire somebody who's good at marketing and sales. Or maybe you're great at marketing and sales and not a good financial person, so you need to look for adding somebody to do finance on your team. Any investor or prospective investor is going to want to know, above and beyond almost everything else, that there's a solid team behind the idea that has strengths to meet all of the things that are required of an early stage business. So this is a very important section for you to reflect upon. The next section is the market assessment. The market is who you're selling your product or service to, and in this class we get you to work on what's called an MVP, or minimum viable product. And the reason we have you do that is because it's easier to do a feasibility study. So what exactly is a minimum viable product? Well, an MVP is simply a boiled down version of the grand vision that you have for your business. So for example, if you want to go into the donut making business, your grand vision for your business might be to make a chocolate frosted donut with rainbow sprinkles. But what you really should do in almost any business enterprise when you're first starting out is develop a boiled down version of that grand vision that you have. So in that example, you might just make a plain donut and go out into the real world and show it to people and say, what do you think about my donut? And you might think, well, gosh, everybody's going to say, I want chocolate frosting and sprinkles on it. But you'd be surprised how often that doesn't happen. And people tell you they want other features added to that particular product offering, or MVP. So the best thing to do is to not think to yourself, what do I like in a product? What do I want in a service? But rather to show people a very basic version of that product and say, what would you like to see in it? Because in the end, it really doesn't matter what you think. In the end, it matters only what customers think. And without customers, you have no business. So it's best to create a minimum viable product first. And a minimum viable product could be something that's a website. If it's an expensive thing that you want to make, a restaurant, let's say, that you want to open, you obviously may not have the funds to open up a restaurant. But if you create a really nice website that describes what sets your restaurant apart, and what the menu options will be and why your restaurant's so great, and then you go out into the real world and you show people this website and you ask them to give you feedback about it, that is a version of an MVP as well. So it can be a physical device like a donut, or it can be a tangible MVP like a website, something you can't touch. An intangible product, like something you can't touch, like a website. So anyways, that's the market assessment section. And, it is, as it says here, imperative that you support your market assessment with facts and not feelings. So don't say things like, I think, I have a feeling that the market is X. We want you to operate off of factual numbers and factual data, all of which you'll be discovering when you go out into the field and conduct your weekly customer discovery reports. These are just questions here to help you and to prompt you to fill in this section, but all of the content that I have in here underneath market assessment, from where it says with a lean startup MVP, all of that should be deleted. The only thing I want to see is market assessment and then what you've written. All of my stuff and all of my questions that I have in here are designed to help you to think about these issues, but I do not want you to leave, let's say, this question, what's the size of the market, and then you answer it, what are the sales, what's the sales volume, and this isn't a question and answer assignment. These are questions to help you to think about important issues, but you should erase all of the stuff that I've written and populate it with your own. That's a very, very important element of this, and your grade will be adversely affected if you keep any of my written content in your own final project. The customer discovery findings section, as I said, will be long because here's just one sample of a customer discovery report. It has the date. It says what business model building block we're testing, which is the customer segment. It has the hypothesis, what our findings were, what questions we asked, and what the conclusion was that we got for that 1 week's customer discovery report. So you're going to be doing like 12 or 13 of these throughout the semester. So it's important for you to realize that you're going to be populating this report with that information. If it's easier for you to put it into a table format, that's fine as well. So that's that section. The competitive analysis section is something you can start on right away, the first week of the class, because you really should know who the competitors are, who the players are out there in the marketplace. The best way to do this is for you to use the tool that I've provided you with, which is this table here. You should certainly read all of this stuff that I have above it. In fact, there'll be a whole activity to do a competitive analysis in week 3. But you simply put for your company, what the factors are for your product, the price. You're a low price vendor, high quality, wide selection, varieties. And you list what the strengths and weaknesses are of your product, what the strengths and weaknesses are of your service, and so on and so forth. And then you list the names of competitors, and you should have at least 2 other competitors listed here, and what the products are that they offer and what the price is that they offer, and how important are the differences between you and your competitors to the consumer or customer that you're both trying to reach. Most companies have competitors. Very few companies are creating new markets. Facebook was built on MySpace and Google on Yahoo. So, while these big companies, you'd think, well, they're very original, they're really just adaptations of other business ideas. Marketing strategy will address your product market fit. Are you making the right product for the right customers? Are you satisfying that need that they have effectively and efficiently? There's a whole bunch of content in here to help you write up this section, as well as in the textbook. There's a lot of work that we'll cover in there as well. The last section, or last couple of sections, is financial analysis section. You can again read all of this. If you're in the certificate program, you'll be taking this class with me, which spends an entire 8 weeks going into great detail about the finances behind a startup enterprise. And specifically, what you're going to have to do are these things here. A 12-month profit and loss projection for your company, a 4-year profit projection, which is optional. Some students do it, some don't, depends on how serious they are. A projected cash flow statement, and again, you'll learn what all of these things are during the semester. You're not expected to know these things right here on the first couple of days of class. And then the last item is an opening day balance sheet, which is what assets and what liabilities do you think you'll have, or do you have if you have an existing business. And finally, what is your break-even analysis? Which means, how many units of something do you have to sell each month just to meet your fixed costs of operating your business, like your electricity and wages and rent and stuff like that. And at the end, you'll write a conclusion, which will basically sum everything up. That's the feasibility study in a nutshell. The second component to this is, once this is done, you have to create a PowerPoint presentation that summarizes all of this stuff. You're not going to actually do a presentation in front of me. You'll just create a PowerPoint that summarizes this particular feasibility study, and you'll upload both documents, the Word document for this feasibility study and the PowerPoint project file, to Blackboard no later than April 30th. So anyways, that's a summary of what the scope of the Lean Business Model Feasibility Study is. Again, to access it, it's on the homepage of Blackboard right here where it says Lean Feasibility Plan. And you should be working on this really from the beginning of the semester and doing a little bit each and every day, or at least a couple of times a week. That's it for this video. I hope that helped to give you a better understanding of what's expected for this project. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me, but this video pretty much went into everything that's required.